Imagine being 13 years old, working to help support your family, only to be murdered at what's supposed to be a safe place, work. This is what happened to Mary Fagan in Atlanta, Georgia on April 26, 1913. Mary Fagan's murder has been a hotly debated topic, especially since new information has come up over a half a century later. There are three main points about the murder of Mary Fagan. First, I would like to give you some quick information about who Mary Fagan was. Second, I want to speak about the murder as well as the suspects. Third, I want to speak about the trial and sentencing. Let me first give you a little background about Mary Fagan. She was a girl who at the age 10 had to drop out of school to work. As we see here, in the 1910s, the high school graduation rate is very low. These people had to drop out of school in order to help their family financially. According to Chrissy Howard, How One Child's Murder Helped Launch Anti-Defamation League, her dad passed away before she was born, and she had to start working at an early age in order to help her family. Mary had started working for the National Pencil Company in 1912, making 10 cents an hour. Also, according to Howard, she was 12 years old when she moved from Marietta, Georgia, to Atlanta, where she worked at the National Pencil Company under supervisor Leo Frank. Now that we know a little about Mary, let's look into the murder and the suspects involved. She worked at the pencil company for roughly 13 months until the day her body was discovered in the basement, with injuries consistent with a sexual assault and strangulation. Her body had multiple injuries that had indicated a sexual assault had taken place. According to Alan Koenigsberg, Mary Fagan's autopsy, Dr. H.F. Harris reported that the autopsy showed damage and injuries around her private areas, as well as her clothes, such as panties and dress, were ripped. These are the items that they had discovered that were with her and on her when she was found in the basement. While there was evidence of sexual assault, the cause of death was strangulation. Koenigsberg states that there was a strip of Mary Fagan's dress and a rope that was tied around her neck. She was also found with congestion of the tongue, blueness of the hand and fingernails, which were also indication of strangulation. Initially, there were 5 suspects, 2 of which became the main suspects in the murder. The first being Jim Conley, who was the janitor at the pencil company. Larry Worthy, Little Secrets, the Murder of Mary Fagan and the Trial of Leo Frank, says that Jim confessed to helping Leo Frank dispose of her body. His statement was then used to ultimately convict Leo Frank in the murder of Mary Fagan. The main suspects was Leo Frank. Mary Keene, Leo Frank, and the murder of Little Mary Fagan, said that Leo Frank was believed to be the last person to see Mary Fagan. He was convicted and sentenced to be hanged. Now that we have details of Mary Fagan's death and the suspects that are known, I'm going to tell you about the trial and sentencing of Leo Frank. Given a death sentence by the court, which was later reduced by the governor of Georgia, citizens became so outraged with the trial of Leo Frank that they decided to deliver their own justice. Leo Frank was tried in court and found guilty of the murder with his sentence of death by hanging. According to Larry Worthy, although Jim Conley had earlier admitted to lying to the police, his statement was still used for prosecution. Leo Frank was only able to postpone his death sentence by challenges and appeals. June 21, 1915, Governor Slayton was able to commute Leo Frank's sentence from death to life in prison. Larry Worthy states that Leo Frank was transferred to Milledgeville, where he was then kidnapped by 25 armed men. These 25 men took him to Marietta, Georgia, which was Mary Fagan's hometown, where he was then lynched to death. 69 years later, in 1982, an ex-child worker at the pencil company named Alonzo Mann came forward about seeing Jim Conley by himself tossing Mary Fagan's body down the basement chute. According to Wendell Rawls Jr., after 69 years, lynching victim is cleared, Alonzo Mann was on his deathbed, and he said Jim Conley threatened him, saying that if he ever told anyone, he would kill him. It all began when one little girl just wanted to go to work to collect her hard-earned pay, only to realize she would not go home that day, which sounds very similar to a song written about Mary Fagan called The Ballad of Mary Fagan by fiddler John Carson, written in 1915. There are 3 main points about Mary Fagan. There's her background, then the murder and the main suspects, and lastly, the trial famously now known as the Leo Frank trial. The tragic events of that day and the subsequent trial will forever be talked about for many years to come, whether you think Leo Frank deserved it or if the judicial system failed as a whole. Do you think it is fair for a person who admitted lying to the police to live a regular life, while Leo Frank gets labeled as a monster for supposedly killing a child, leading to his own murder based on one person's questionable testimony?